Should I hand that one to you? There you go. Thank you.
Test. Okay. I'm not doing this alone because this is Ringling Remembered, and I'm very proud to ask a lot of, actually, Clown College graduates, and many of which I'm proud to say were my students. Just like you had your young Joeys there. So we have Cheryl Feltz-Schufer, Trish Manuel, that you people all know as Priscilla Moosberger, and the next generation of clowning, Julia. The one and only Mr. Kenny Ahern. Pick a seat, pick a seat. Jeff McMullen. Nicole Portwood. Lori. Easy. And Frank DeSanto. Great, great. Who am I missing? Am I missing anybody? Neal Scoy, Greg Parks. Don Russell. Okay, come on up. When the music stops. Miller and Mike. Come on, come on. Ringling Clowns. Ringling Remembered. We're going to tell you some of the things we can tell you, and we're probably going to tell you a lot of the stuff that we shouldn't tell you. Maybe.
There should be enough cord.
Oh my God, how are we going to... This is a family show. Don't say anything about Frosty.
Have Karen come down front. Karen, come down front so we can see you.
You know, I don't know, but I think we're going to have to... You know, come on in, come on in. Okay. So I think that I'm going to bring the microphone. This is all off the cuff here. There's no cue cards. I'm going to go down to, well, I'll just start right over here. You can say what your affiliation of Ringling, your name, your affiliation with Ringling, maybe what years, and we'll just pass that all the way down, and I'll meet you down the other end with the microphone. We're going to talk about the present, the past, and maybe the future of clowning in America. But mostly Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, Ringling Remembered. Karen.
I'm Karen Hoyer. It was my privilege to be the mime and movement instructor at Ringling Clown College from '91 to '94, and then later, after the Baraboo reunion, I was drafted to become an audition class teacher, so I helped run the auditions for Ringling.
I'm Neal Scoy. I was on the blue unit from 2006 2007. That's it.
I graduated Clown College in 1985, and I was on the blue unit from 1985 to 1995, and then came back as the director of clowns for 5 seasons to help with the Ringling Clowns.
My name is Easy. I'm one of the clowns. I graduated from Clown College in 1988. I toured with the Gold Special International Unit in Japan my first year. Then they sent me to the Red. Then they sent me to the Blue. There's 3 different units. And I'm the only clown who ever toured for more than 2 years and never saw New York City. They kept putting me back on the rodeo route every time.
My name's Kenny Ahern. I attended Clown College in 1983, and I toured with the Blue Unit of The Greatest Show on Earth, 1985 through 1989, and I was also fortunate to be on the Clown College staff for 4 years, and Mr. Severini is my dean.
Raise your hand, you were my students. Oh! In addition to my granddaughter.
I'm Lori Hurley. I graduated Clown College in 1988 with EZ and toured with the Gold Unit through Japan.
I'm Nicole Portwood, and I am a proud graduate of 1984 with Dawn and Cheryl. And I was Gold Unit 88 and Red Unit 89 to 91.
I guess I'm the oldest one up here. Jeff McMullen, I graduated from Clown College in 1979, toured the Blue Unit in 80, and then I had the privilege in 1989 to reestablish my relationship with Mr. Severini, and we set up Clown College Tokyo.
Can you hold this for me? Sure. I'm going to sign because I have a deaf friend in the audience. My name is Julia Bothan, and I was in the Red Unit for 3 years.
My name is Tricia Manuel. I went to Clown College in 1982. I was on the show, The Blue Show, for 3 years. And then I was really fortunate enough to do a special program called The Circus at Disneyland for Ron out in Anaheim. And then I moved on to do costuming at Clown College for the Gold Unit and some special projects, and also did the music festival events. And where's Don Versal? Over here. Don and I are the only 2 clowns who did all 3 years of the Circus at Disneyland, and it was awesome.
We're the only suckers.
I am Cheryl Felcher, my maiden name, and I am a proud graduate of 1984 with, of course, Ron Severini. Very excited to get that phone call. And I worked at Circus World until it closed, but that's it.
Hey, I'm Mike Lorenz. I was on the 131st, 133rd, and 135th edition of The Greatest Show on Earth. That was the Red Unit.
I'm Tim Otis Miller. I was on the Red Unit for the 131st and 133rd, and that was 02, 03, and 04.
My name is Gregory Parks. I was on the Blue Unit from 2000 to 2004, so that was the 130th, 132nd, and 134th.
And I'm Don Bursell. I graduated in '84 with Nicole, Cheryl. Ron was my dean. If you've heard the story of the person that had to leave the show because they were allergic to all the animals, that was me. So, did that year, the first year at Living Unicorn, then did the 3 years of Circus Fantasy, and back to you.
Okay. So let's take it from the day just before you all went to Clown College. You were how old? You were doing something, and why did you want to go and apply to Clown College? Is what I'd like for you to share with these people.
Oh, so let's see. So I'm from New York, just a little FYI, and I went to California. I was a little shy, and I went to California to take mime because I really wanted to be a mime. And I was still a little shy, but I'm going to do this. And I went there, and I thought I was a cool New York kid, even though I was shy. But I went there, and this woman, Barry Rolfe, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Barry Rolfe, but she came up and she did a workshop at Leonard Pitt School of Mime, and I put the nose on, and I don't know, something inside just sparked, and I decided that's it. I have to be a clown. I did not mind. I didn't feel that shy, and I went. About a week later, I came home. They were auditioning at Nassau Coliseum, and I just broke loose. They said, "Hey, you want to try this?" I'm like, "Sure." "You want to juggle?" "Yeah, absolutely." And I auditioned, filled out the application, and Ron Severini gave me a call, and here I am. And I'm still performing, and I'm still hiring clowns to perform, and I'm very excited about it.
How old were you? Old enough.
7.
I was 21, and I had been clowning since I was 18, but I had never had any training. And I heard there was this thing called Clown College. So I got all excited about it, filled out the application, but couldn't go out to an audition. So I don't know if I was the only one, but I was one of the few people who talked their way into clown college and got in without an audition. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. I didn't go to clown college because it was done when I went. So.
When you joined the show?
I was 18 when I went, and I was there 2 weeks before all the training started. So, yeah, it was really exciting and super scary because I was alone. I went by myself, and that's why it was terrifying. But it got better, so, yeah.
Who was your biggest influence?
Pointed your mom, by the way.
Chuck Sidlow? No, I'm kidding. I love you. So yes, she was my biggest influence. Hold on, I guess I have to spell this. Yes, I'm playing cribbage with Frosty, playing cards. That was so cool. But yeah, your turn.
I was 19 when I went to clown college. Right out of high school, applied to clown college. I, like Trish, was fortunate enough to have the trust of Mr. Severini without an audition. Might have been that mistake he made there, sir. But, I went in and it just changed my life. And he was really the first person that really, truly trusted me and believed in me in this craft. So thank you, Ron.
So I had gotten a job at an amusement park working games my junior year of high school, and I would watch this clown walking up and down the midway, and I thought, I can't believe this guy gets paid to do that. That's not really a job, and I want that job because I want to do something that looks that fun and you actually get paid for it. So the following year, there actually was a former Ringling clown and a former Ringling choreographer who had been hired by my amusement park to put together a big clown show with several clowns. And so I ended up at that audition, and they were the ones that told me about clown college. And I auditioned at 17. I don't even think I was 18 yet. So I graduated from high school and college in the same year.
So I was traveling with an international cast of Up With People, traveling around the world with people from all over the world. We stopped in Sarasota, Florida to do a performance. Our advanced team, looking for stuff for us to do, invited Steve Smith, the current director of the Clown College, to do a workshop for our cast. I'd only heard of Clown College because this guy I dated talked about this place where you could learn all these crazy mad skills. And so I went to the workshop, found Steve Smith, said, "Hey, I'm dating this guy, and he said there's this clown college," and thought nothing of it. Steve Smith went to conduct the workshop, taught Dead and Alive, the classic gag, to teach us all what it was like to be clowns, and said, "You, Lori, right? Why don't you come on up here and volunteer and help me teach this to everybody?" Turns out that was my audition. And the truth was I never wanted to be a clown. What I wanted was to be Steve Smith. So I wanted to be him. I wanted to have a heart the size of Alaska and give it away to everybody. Made it to Clown College. Actually, Ron, you don't remember, we had dinner together on my 21st birthday. I turned 21 in Clown College. We had dinner together. There was a group of us who went out to celebrate my birthday. Never looked back.
We're just wondering if you could pep this up a little bit because it's getting kind of slow at these.
Okay, I'll do that.
Deep breath, feeling mama's problem.
In 1983, I was a rudderless college student, and my English professor told me about a program called Clown College. And it just so happened that the circus was coming to the DC Armory, and he said, "Why don't you go audition for Ringling Brothers and Barnum Ballet Circus and write a paper about it?" And he knew that I had done some amateur clowning in and around my community. So I'm thinking, awesome. I'm gonna go audition for the circus, and I'm gonna have to do less research for my paper because I just write about it. But that Mr. Severini was there. I auditioned for the circus, and it was on April Fool's Day, 1983. On April Fool's Day in 1985, I signed my first contract with the greatest show on earth. So April Fool's is kind of a big day for me with that. So I was 20 with that, and I as well turned 21. I didn't get to go out to dinner with Mr. That's the reason why I don't talk.
When I was a Cub Scout in Quantico, Virginia, we went to the newspaper office, and on the front page of the newspaper was a picture of Coco, Michael. And I don't know what, I didn't read the paper, I got to keep a copy of it. I never saw another clown until 1979. So when I was in second grade, that was like what, 66, 67? Sure. Yeah. So, but I did term paper on Clown College when I was in high school, but I couldn't find any information about it. So I had to change it to term paper on the circus. I couldn't find any information about that either. And because I'm old and there's nothing in the libraries about clowns or circuses that I could find in my little Marine Corps based libraries. And so I auditioned for Clown College in 78, and because I was in college as well. And that's funny about what your teacher told you to go, because I had auditioned. I said, I heard about this Clown College, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna audition. And my English teacher was like, don't do it, you're such a good writer. He didn't know I plagiarized my whole journal. But Severini didn't take me. But that's okay, I still don't hold a grudge. 10 years later, I got in, Steve Smith invited me in, and like everyone else said, there's no turning back from there. But I did get to meet Coco later on in life. Oh, I was 29 years old when I went. I was the oldest one in my class at Clown College. Second oldest, because there was another guy there.
Now you don't want to...
I was 21, I was in college in New York City at the School of Visual Arts, and I, on a whim, just went to Madison Square Garden, saw an audition flyer for the Ringling Brothers Barnum Clown College. Went to Madison Square Garden, went upstairs, hadn't been to a circus in probably 15, 20 years. Went into this audition, it was the Red Unit, and for the first time in my life, I was in a room with about 70 other people that were exactly like me. So that's how I got in.
Top that
one. I grew up on a film entitled Be a Clown, put out by the Ringling Brothers. It was basically Ringling Brother propaganda. And that put it in my head that Ringling Brothers was the penultimate for clowning in America, circus. So I grew up as a clown nerd and as a Ringling Brothers nerd. And Ron actually helped put that film out. And so thank you.
See that film? Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up as wanting to be a clown, and I was 17 when I got in contact with Tim Holst. This is after Clown College had closed. Oh yeah, Lori was my first birthday party clown here in Minnesota. Boy, I lucked out on that one. And the same day I was offered a contract, I also told my car. But 17, got my dream, and here we are now.
I was working in Chicago in the mime community, and a good friend of mine, Karen Sheridan, was the mime and movement instructor at Ringling, and she had gotten a real college job. and she recommended me to Steve Smith to go down there and teach. And it was a fantastic experience because as a teacher with all of these guys, they really taught me a lot, and I learned a lot about clowning, and it was a wonderful experience. And then there was a reunion in Baraboo, and I bumped into Tim Holst, and he said, I think I need you to help me run these auditions. I had no idea that he even knew who I was. And so I said yes, and I got to do all those auditions, and that was a wonderful experience too.
Well, when I was 3, Lori Hurley did my birthday party. Thank you. Well, it just cost me a job, didn't it? All right. I was 17. I'd always wanted to be in the circus. My grandpa used to take my cousins and I to the circus every year. I got to see Ringling Brothers when they came to Minneapolis. I can slow down for Julia if you need me to. And it said in the paper, auditions for showgirls and clowns, and I figured, well, I'll go for the clown part. And I auditioned, and if I understand correctly, I didn't get accepted right away until I think I got accepted probably about 5 weeks before Clown College started. Then my grandpa passed away the day I got accepted, so he knew I got accepted, but I went to Clown College 2 days late and saw Irvin Feld come in and go up to his office, and he passed away that night, so I never got to meet him. But it was okay. I had done 1 year of college for architecture and design and realized I did not want to sit behind a drafting table, so the circus, much to my parents' chagrin, was the answer, and it still is. So thank you.
I was first interested when I read an article in National Geographic World magazine at the age of 9. It was the September 1982 issue. That's how much it impacted me. And then after several years of ping-ponging between denial because smart kids aren't supposed to be clowns, wrong, if you're thinking that, wrong, and wanting to do it, I finally decided to audition in my senior year of college. So 1995 was my very first clown college audition, and I auditioned a couple times that year, didn't get in, auditioned the next year, didn't get in, auditioned the third year, and they closed. They didn't. Like, this is the only way he'll stop. Turn off the lights, baby. You won't know. Shut up, Dick. Shut up. Yeah, Dick Monday was the dean. Beautiful. This is where we are. And then, so I just was like, okay, well, I guess I'll get some other training eventually somehow. And then a couple of years afterwards, somebody I'd gotten to know from auditioning said, well, this is what they're doing now, so maybe you should send a letter to Tim Holst, which I did. And then about every 6 months, I kind of let him know I was still into it, you know, interested. And then, yes, and then the circus closed. Shut up, Nicole, turn off the lights. Alana, shut up, he'll hear you. One late in the summer of 2000, I got a call from Jim Ragona. And she's like, so are you still interested in being a clown on the greatest show on earth? And then I was like, yes, I'd still like to do that. Yeah. And inside I'm screaming and freaking out. And so November 2000, I started my time with Ringling Brothers. And I also met Lori before I went. Met her at a callback here in snowy Minneapolis, and I'll hold off on the date.
Just to add a little something, Greg said he wrote a lot of letters. I have a stack of letters from an 11-year-old Greg Parks that would write to the clowns in the alley. I'm sure it wasn't just me. I think he was always looking for a signed autographed photo, but he would ask a million questions about all the clowns and what's your favorite thing, what are you doing? So yeah.
Never got one.
You were allergic.
Donnie, shut up! He'll hear you!
Well, let's see. I was 23, and I'd done a couple of years at the College of Business at the University of Wisconsin, and I hated it. It was horrible. Yep, I know. Yeah, I was in nowhere, Wisconsin, and yeah, there's nothing. Well, no, that's the name of the place. There wasn't anything in that town except for one thing, and that was Jeff McMullen right here, and he's the one that introduced both Mike and I to clowning as a profession, and showed us that it's a real thing, it's a real job. And so I went to clown camp with Snowberg. Thank you very much. That was in 2001. That was the first thing I did. And I think it was later that same year I went to one that Randy Christensen was hosting in Green Bay. And yeah, I was really getting into it. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, much like you, Greg, I sent a lot of letters to Jim Ragona and Tim Holst. Yeah, boy, I probably sent them a copy of my resume once a week. For a couple of months I did that. And yeah, it finally paid off. When he called, he didn't have to ask if I was still interested. He knew I was still interested. So yeah, so I jumped on it. Yep.
I was at University of Wisconsin. Jeff was my speech teacher. He recognized me. He was the first person to ever believe in me and believe in me as a clown, or really as anything else, besides my parents, but they don't count. So he got me into this wonderful world. He wrote me a great recommendation letter, contact Steve Smith, and I sent that letter. I was a senior at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I sent that letter every single week to Tim Holst, the Vice President of Talent Production at Ringling, and I called him every single day. My entire senior year, okay? That is not an exaggeration, okay? And there was a lot of great young talent up here on this stage today. This is a lesson in determination and meeting your goals and living your dreams, okay? If you want that bad enough and you commit to it and you see it and you visualize it, you can achieve it, okay? And that's what I did. That was like the first time in my life that I ever realized that I can just do whatever I want if I put my mind to it. And I did that. And eventually one day Sharon Fredis, Tim's assistant, called me and said, stop calling, stop sending me letters. We know that you're out there. When the time comes, we will let you know. And so I stopped. And a few months later, I was working at a balloon shop, and Jim Ragona calls me up and says, do you want to be, and a week later, I had a signed contract and sent it back. And, later that November, I was on the floor with the greatest show on earth.
As the director of the Clown College, like I said Monday evening, we got approximately 6,000 completed applications. And I had to read every one of those every year. And then I had to review them and select the ones that I had the yes, maybes, and the no's. Some of them you could just tell. I wanted to find really talented people, the funny people that were just great people, and that have a great heart and want to give. And I think that these people are a testament to the quality level of all the students that went to Clown College or worked with the greatest show on earth, because I think that they're very special people.
I want to say something, because you talked about reading the applications, and if you're thinking, can I just inject something about the application, Ron? Would that be okay? I have an application here. And what most people don't know is that application was not the basic job application, which had name, date, birth date, all of that. No, this is a 6-page application. And it asks questions like, when was the last time you cried? And for what reason? Describe briefly a serious adverse personal situation and how you handled it. There's references, do you object to being directed? Do you resent being disciplined? Do you honor obligations? How do you adapt to unusual environments? Please use 1 to 2 words to describe how you enter a room. So 6 pages, you had your work cut out for you. I just want to acknowledge the work of 6 pages.
I have a follow-up. The one about entering the room, use 1 or 2 words to enter the room. I never thought about this myself, but many of my colleagues over the years said they wrote the door. I'm just wondering how many of those did you get, people saying the door? Was that the answer? Was that the punchline?
No, we just wanted to see what answers you can come up with. You know, some people try to attempt to be very funny. Some people answer the questions very straight. There was one question that I always felt very important is, do you compete better with others or with yourself? And I think that is a very important thing, because I personally think that you need to compete with yourself and be the best that you can possibly be. Don't worry about whatever anybody else is doing. They're your brother, they're your sister in the clown alley. You wish them well, you hope that they do great. And you just keep your eye on the ball, and when you're running a race, you don't really want to look back and see where anybody else is. You just want to keep going and run the fastest that you can run. So I would get calls because Mr. Feld would fly all over the world, and I get calls 3 o'clock in the morning, my time. I said, okay, Ron, let's go to work. And then I'd have to have all the applications that I recommended to him and talk to him about each and every answer. He was meticulous about every single thing and every answer. And boy, I had to put my family name. I had to sign like on the dotted line why I was vouching for this person, why I was not going to waste money, time, and why this person was really going to be great, and why they were going to be funny, and why they should be with his circus. It was his circus. It wasn't whatever else. It was his show. So we read over all those applications, and we finally, started hand-picking. Some people I had the fortune to be able to go and audition people live and in person and talk, and then afterwards we would talk with them, and then we would invite them to the show and sit there and watch the show, at least for coming to the audition, and we put them through our paces. And I found out later that audition was maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it was with a multitude of people. Not till later on when I started casting for Cirque du Soleil. Some Cirque du Soleil auditions can be 4, 6, 8, 12 hours just to be able to get you into an interview. And oh, by the way, Cirque du Soleil is looking for a new clown for their new show in China. So if anybody is interested in China, you got it.
Oh, that's right.
I'll read over. I'll show you the paper they sent me.
Are there animals?
There are no animals in that show, no.
I'm too old to care, though.
So we have gone over now why you wanted to go and at what age and when. So now I wanted to go over. Now you're in the college. Let's go over what you learned and who you learned it from. And if you got any little tidbits of answers or information about any of the instructors, and Frosty, and Lou, and if anybody was there with Bobby Kay, because I got to tell you, what I learned there at Clown College as attending is that we call them the veteran clowns, not the old-timers. Randy. He's left the building through the door. They gave unselfishly and of themselves. Lou Jacobs was there, sometimes 3, 5, 7, 8 hours a day in the heat. This was September, October, November in Florida, and it was no air conditioning. It was in an old airplane hangar turned circus arena. And all day long, well, Lou would be out there and he just kept on giving. You asked Lou Jacobs a question, he gave you the answer. He was not afraid about losing his job. Early on, when we went to Clown College, I attended in 1971, it was the time when the young tigers were in with the old tigers. And when we went on to the show, we were all referred to as, hey, college clown. Let's see what you can do, college clown. With a couple of the guys there. Some of the people there I learned what to do, and some of them I learned what not to do. But it was all good training, and my point really I wanted to make was that the clowns that were there, the instructors, came off of the road, and they just gave. When anything you wanted to know, Bobby Kay, you wanted to know whatever, that guy, what a sweetheart of a man. May he rest in peace, calmly. He would just, whatever. You know, I used to call up Bobby to do Clown College, and I'd have to negotiate. Here I'm negotiating with Bobby Kay and Lou Jacobs to come down and teach a Clown College. Bobby said, you don't have to pay me. Whatever, I just want to do it. You know, so I ended up giving him like $50 a week more. Just because Bobby just didn't, he was Bobby Kay. And he had such knowledge and such information to be able to pass on and share. So maybe you have some stories of whomever, whatever faculty members.
You know, when you talked about Bobby Kay and all those names, to me, like I said, I never met a clown before I went to clown college. The only names that I knew were the ones that I met. And so when I met DeSanto, I must have met 15 other clowns at the same time, because he talked about Kenny, and he talked about Jimmy Graham, and he talked about all the clowns that he had worked with. So when you learn from him, you learn from everybody. I figured out, I knew how he caught his hats on his head because DeSanto told me. I had never seen you, but I could steal your act. And then when you got on the road, all the other ones who didn't teach at clown college, they were teaching you too. And that's where these guys got lucky, because they had the chance to learn from guys that were on their feet and working on the road, as opposed to sitting in a classroom and taking that knowledge and trying to learn it and trying to, you know, we got to their step, they got to their step in their first step. We went through the whole classroom situation and learned it all first. These guys hit the ground running. At least we were told that we were great before we got on the floor. And then we learned we weren't. And here's just a little point of, if you want to tell the difference between before and after clown college. He was on the 131st, 133rd, and 135th edition of the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Circus. I was on the Tusk Show, the Gunther Show, and the Tony Show. I don't know what numbers they were.
Yeah, like Easy said, yeah, I learned, I think I learned the most from Lou and Frosty when I went to Clown College, and I got to meet this really amazing man. He came and guest taught Mark Anthony, and yeah, he was. I was like, there's a sweetness in this man that is like, he clowned, and you believed everything he did, and again, Lou and Frosty were so giving, and so like Ron said, like about Bobby Kay, they were just so willing to share everything they knew with people that maybe, you know, they don't know if they really deserve to know all this, but they shared it with us, and they knew that, you know, hopefully some of us would take this and share it with the next generation. So
I never went to clown college. I went to Mooseburger Clown Camp though, and it was Frosty Little's last year on staff there, so I followed him around like a shadow. And then the next year he had his retirement party in Vegas, and it was a big hoopla. And I went to the convention and was lucky enough to have an in with Trish, and she got me into the banquet. And it was there that Steve Smith had a couple words near the end of the evening, and he pointed at the kids at the back of the room and said, "There's the future." And in my head, that was my personal graduation from Clown College.
I'll say a little bit about working under Steve Smith, because he was the dean when I was there as a teacher, and I have never been under a person, or the sort of the atmosphere that he set up is like each person that was going through Clown College was equally important, and we spent a lot of time discussing their journey through Clown College and all the things that they were experiencing, and he was like telling the staff to make it worthwhile for each one, even if we knew that that person probably was not going to be continuing with Ringling, maybe would do something else, but that little lesson of being so concerned and so supportive of the students was a real strong ethic that I took away from working there.
And I'll give just a word of encouragement. I went down to Clown College already knowing the skill stuff like the juggling, unicycling, so I should have convinced myself not to work on those. But at the end, when you're brought from the villas, and offered a contract, the honest truth, what Kenneth Feld said to me, and I can't quote it word for word, but he said, "Don, I want to offer you a contract." I was like, "Yes," he said, "but not because you're funny. Because I didn't see you do anything funny last night. But I need skilled clowns on the red unit." But the cool thing was, for me, it was like, oh, here's my way on, and stuff. And thanks to people like Ron that put enough people in front of me that gave me little bits here and there. When I came out of Clown College, I didn't understand what they were talking about. Like, what is your character? But what was cool is working with some other Ringling clowns. I remember where I was standing and who it was. His name was James Enoff Killebrew at Circus Fantasy at Disney. We were doing this gag together, and I watched him walk away, and I instantly right there knew exactly what they were talking about 2 years earlier in Clown College. So you get little bits all the way through, and it builds and builds, and it's still building for me, which is cool. I mean, there's some people here I don't know that I've even met. I've never met you guys, so it's like fun to watch other people perform and steal their, learn from them,
Good artist copy, great artist steal.
So I was one of those people that did not receive a contract the day they came to the villas. My roommate did because she was a midget, but that's what I was told, was that if I had been a midget, I probably would have gotten a contract. But not at all. But I wanted it. I mean, I didn't know how bad I wanted it the first day of Clown College, but I certainly knew how bad I wanted it the last day of Clown College. And I think Ron, when he talked about knowing, I don't know if he knew exactly almost 35 years ago that I would be sitting up here, and that Cheryl would be sitting up here, and that Dawn would be sitting up here, and other people that he knows still clown full time. I think it is something very difficult to try to figure that out when you're in the moment then. I mean, you just don't know. But they told me, don't give up. Don't give up, keep trying. And for 4 years, I also wrote to Tim Holst. But I also did a lot of other clowning, so I was very blessed to have an opportunity to do the Gold Unit in Japan and to do Disneyland and to work at Circus World. So I'm one of those clowns that have been able to experience. I did Circus World with Kenny 35 years ago. So I know, people ask me, how do you know so many people? Because I didn't get a contract. That's how I know so many people. And I got that chance to do so many other things while I waited. So that's what I would tell you guys too. Never think of a disappointment as a disappointment. A closed door is never a closed door. Figure out where else you're supposed to be at that moment in your life, because that's fate. You're not supposed to be there right then and there. So figure out where you're supposed to be. So I wouldn't change a thing now.
I had the opportunity to study under Lou at Clown College, and he taught styles that one particular day, how to appear bigger than you physically are, and in my case, that was a good thing. But I jumped up on that ring curve, and I did what I thought was to be the perfect style, and Lou looked at me and says, "Can you feel the light?" Huh? Can you feel the light? I said, "Oh, what do you mean? Excuse me, Mr. Jacobs, I don't understand." He says, "You will style correctly when you can feel the light of the spotlight off the dome of your cheek. Until you can feel that, you're not right." And I remembered that, and every time I would style, I'd go, "There That was what Mr. Jacobs thought.
Would you mind? Yes, she is my mic stand. I know, spelling is my hardest part. So, I really didn't have a lot of teachers because my boss clown was our teacher for the most part. Ruthie helped us so much with makeup. Oh my gosh, it was probably my favorite part of the entire week. Just watching her, oh honey, you should try this. And just fixing everybody's faces. And she's just such a delight. And that was probably my favorite.
Tell them
was
who
her.
Ruthie is.
Ruthie Chaddock.
Yeah.
Tell them who they are.
They don't know.
No one knows who she is.
Oh. Ruthie is the sweetest person you will ever meet. She lives down in Texas still, yeah?
Plano, Texas.
Yep, in Plano,
When did you go to
Texas.
Clown College, Ron?
Ruthie went maybe 74.
The same year as Bill Irwin, Dick Monday,
Barry.
Barry Lipman, and Bill Irwin.
Another great year. Another great year. Talk about persistence in applying yourself. As the director, some people were just persistent and just kept on applying. There's a fellow by the name of Chris Allison, and he applied from the age of 13 through all the way until he was 18. And finally, he got to be 18. He was out of high school, and I had to take this kid because he's a sweetheart, because he was persistent for 5-6 years. Every year, he would send in that contract. Every year, I'd send it back and thank you very much. Keep at it. Keep sending me another one next year. I expect to receive an application completed from you next year. Tom Parrish took a roll of toilet paper, unrolled it, wrote on it with magic marker, please accept me, Tom Parrish, please accept me, please accept me, and then rolled it back up perfectly and send it in. And I said, now this guy's a meticulous guy. I gotta talk to this guy somehow. There was another guy that sent in an application and he was just a wacko. I know he was a wacko.
Yeah, but you took me anyway, didn't you?
And after about 6 months, he sent me his mailbox. And he said, every day I've been opening up this mailbox and looking inside of it. I'm tired of it. You start looking at it. True story. Then we had some people that applied that were incarcerated. And when it said, please describe your lifestyle, it just said prison style. And some people were very honest about, I was looking for, in behalf of Irvin Feld, in behalf of his circus, I was looking for funny clowns that were great people, honest people, hardworking people that wanted to be clowns and wanted to be clowns or be in show business for the rest of their life. And you could just tell they're deep down in their heart and their soul, they were going to do this and nothing was going to stop them. And I knew that once they got bitten, they were going to ignite and they were going to just keep on growing. Just like I told you with the mighty oak was once a nut like you. Well, I was charged with going out and finding those raw seeds that I could plant into Irvin's Funny Farm garden. And I had to make sure that that garden was as fertile as it possibly could be, that we had the sunshine from Lou and Bobby in the beginning, because we're talking about generations. When we came in, there were the veterans, Randy, the Lou Jacobs, and Otto Ringling, and Bobby Kay, and Mark Anthony, and those were the people that were practitioners of this art and craft. And they gave us the torch. And then we felt and had to feel the responsibility not to pass down, but to pass up. So when once there was a student, now eventually became the instructor. and now the instructor's got a whole damn camp that she teaches. And now she's got now this has got an offspring, and she's doing it. And then pretty soon she's going to be the teacher and running the school or doing whatever or being on Broadway, because this girl's got talent. And hopefully everybody out there, anytime she's doing something, please support her. That's a talent. And now you got the Junior Joeys, so please, everybody that's out there, if there's a kid that shows interest in becoming somewhere in the arts, but in particular with our art form, art and craft, the art and craft of being a clown, maybe not necessarily a circus clown, but if you see kids like that, please encourage them. Please do what you can do. Please tell them about the World Clown Association. Please tell them that maybe they can get some kind of training. Let them get their feet wet. Show them whatever it is. Help them. As you can see, this generation here is maybe skewed a little bit older, and the older generation is certainly skewing this veterans. We outnumber the little kids, so we need to find those kids. I think it's very important for a kid themselves to see a great clown and say, gee, that's what I want to do. I want to be like that. And we have to all, I think, this is just me, we have to set such a great example that nobody's even going to come to us and say, so what do you think about these scary clowns? Because these people over here, you got to do it from your heart, like Stevie says, and you just got to do it, and you got to make the art and craft and the brotherhood and the sisterhood of clowning as respectable as possible, and to be looked upon by these kids and say, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's someday I want to aspire to be able to do that. Then they need the training, and you need the openness from the practitioners that become teachers to be able to know how to teach. Not everybody that's a great clown is going to be a great teacher. Some people just are, they're meant to be performers. Maybe they don't know how to explain it to you, but when somebody is a great performer and a great teacher, and you got a lot of them right up here that have been doing it for a long time, and they've been teaching as well, and hope we have to just keep helping. 100, 200 years from now, I still hope that there's a room full of people here saying, yeah, so, let's clown.
Hey, Trish, towards what he was saying, do you get young people at your camp, or do you just get all these guys?
There are young people interested in clowning, not as many as we'd like, and sometimes the cost of a week-long camp is cost prohibitive for young people. But I think what we need to do is don't think that you can't teach. And you don't have to know it all to go home and encourage someone and have someone shadow you and just help them one-on-one. I own a costume shop, and I have people come into my shop and ask about the clown stuff in the back area, and it's like, if they dress up for Halloween, and they say, yeah, I kind of like that clown stuff, and then they have a conversation. If anybody even has a little hint that they might be interested in this, you got to grab them and tell them what it's all about and how much fun it is, and that you'll help them. Don't wait for us to teach them. You need to teach them. You need to encourage them and tell them about the organizations and tell them that, yeah, come with me we're going to the nursing home, and we're going to be doing some stuff. I think we need to open this up. My little clown club, the Wright County Clown Rounds, they said, well, what are your dues? We don't have any dues. Well, what are your rules? We don't have any rules. It's like, if you can't, don't you have to go to so many meetings? No. When you show up, we're like, yay, where have you been? Great, come on, we'll get you in the show. You have to be that, because people are busy. You have to make it as welcoming and encouraging as possible. And we all, I'm not the only teacher in our clown club. Everybody helps everybody. So don't leave it to somebody else to teach people how to clown. You know how to do it. You can put your makeup on. You can say, I don't know all the answers, but I know people who do. And come with me and let's do this. And take somebody to a parade. That's all you got to do. Take them to a parade. Like, that's what happened to me. I fell in love with clowning, and I didn't look back. So don't leave it up to us. Get out there and encourage people to do it.
Yeah, you know, if you're going to a gig somewhere, if you're doing a birthday party or you're doing a balloon thing or you're doing a parade or whatever, and there's a little kid that shows some interest, maybe you can just bring them along with you. Let them be the water boy or water girl or do whatever, just be around them and let them see if there's something that that they can do to learn.
Ask for permission from their parents first.
Okay.
He gets his bracelet off next week.
So,
Could we finish with everyone like maybe telling just a weird, fun story? Because I see a few people that are nodding, and maybe we could yell them away. I don't want to point them out. But.
Anybody have any questions so far about anything that we said? Something you want to know? Pam?
I want to know what life is like on the train and living all together.
Awesome. We can't tell you that.
It's a family show. I lived in a 3.5 foot by 6 foot room. I miss that room. I miss the train life. There was nothing like it. And 3.5 feet by 6 feet was awesome. I always could find my car keys. It took 2 minutes to clean. It was just and I got to see the whole world. I'm from a small town here in Minnesota. I saw the whole country by rail. And it was a humbling and amazing experience. And especially when the brakes got slammed on.
Why do you keep handing me this?
How big is your room?
Oh, my room was bigger.
Whoa.
And I had a fridge in mine. But she wins because she had an entire kitchen down the hallway. And I had my little sink and my little fridge.
And your little microwave oven.
Yeah, my little microwave.
Could you stand up in your room?
What?
Could you stand up in your room?
Yes, I
we
could
had to
stand.
step out to change our pants.
Yeah, had to get out into the hall, change your mind.
I bet everybody's got I think it would be fun if everybody would just say a funny story, a short funny story or a funny experience, something they didn't expect when they joined the show.
I lived in a 4x8 room. A little bit bigger, but I had a roommate. I didn't realize that in a train, when you put the sink up into the wall, whatever in the sink goes into the wall. Yeah, so we lost a lot of silverware the first year. My favorite quick train story is when we would go from city to city. It was riding in the vestibule between towns and going through those towns at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and seeing mile after mile of cars lined up with headlights and their kids sitting on the hood of the car to watch the circus train go through. And I thought, what in the Sam heck is wrong with these people? Until years and years later when I realized there was the only reason I could think of was that we were living every one of their dreams as we went through town. That was the coolest train experience for me.
Yeah, one of the things that I really liked about the circus was the travel. The travel was great. You know, I tell everyone I saw the best train yards in America. Yeah, every one of them, I saw them. It was great. Yeah, the travel was just fantastic. But, you know, talking about persistence, going back to that, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the circus was just that you always had another show. You know, even if you did stuff that didn't work in front of an audience, there was always another show so that you could change it and make it better. And that was, I just really enjoyed that, you know, that constant new audience for you. And you could just always work on stuff and always try new things and really make it work. Circus was great for that.
The travel was marvelous. One of the things about rails is that they go where roads don't. So my first train run was going from Chicago to Savannah, and I got to go through Tennessee, and much of that was next to a river. It was absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite train run stories is the first time I ever saw The Shining was when we were traveling from Cincinnati to Baltimore, and there was a snowstorm coming, and so we're going to reroute the train and go up through Pennsylvania and then back down, and the snow moved, so we were going through just a huge snowstorm, and so I was watching The Shining in the middle of a snowstorm on the train for the first time. So when it got to the end with all this snow, yeah, it was pretty funny, pretty cool. And we had a kitchen on our car, Julia. And the room was bigger than Trish's.
You had both? So I was in Japan, and I just have a quick story. So one of the things I learned quickly, there were over 300 people on our show, but for some reason, everyone knew something about everybody. Being in Japan, I had a little bit of gastric distress early on, something about the water. It's like deja vu all over again. Thanks, Izzy. And anyway, so and I don't remember if this was a dress rehearsal or we're finally in the show, and we're in one of our numbers, and we're at the big musical number. We've got all this choreography, and I'm standing there, but I'm in a place where there's no one in front of me, a very sparse audience at this particular moment, and I'm standing like this, and our production guy, Charlie Bauman, big tall guy, yells to me. He's never said 2 words to me. He's like, "Clown!" And I'm looking, I'm still smiling, doing my "Clown, how are you feeling?" Fine. I heard you had the diarrhea. Good, thanks. So, when you thought that nobody knew who you were, we really were just one big happy family.
Well, for me, my time was real short, so I don't have as much train stuff. I drove the trumpeter's car at times, but there was a guy from our clown college class, John O'Donnell, and we would get bored out of our gourds sometimes on the train if we couldn't ride in the vestibule. So we set up a juggling pin at one end of an 80-foot car and one at the other end, and the hallway is about 1.5 feet wide, and we would bowl a playground ball down there and knock it down to get points. And our game was to whoever would win by 2. And the game went on for about 4.5 hours on a rocking, moving train. But my greatest memory from traveling on the road is 19 overnight hospital stays around the country, and I can tell you about each one of them. But no, it was good. So
We used to do midget bowling. That's what I meant to do. Yeah. Actually, for me, there's a lot of great memories, but a good reason to bring it up right now is because Greg is here. You do a long weekend of being on the road, and then you'd have a nice run. There would be people that would have a release a certain way with that, partying on the train and stuff like that. Greg and I had our rooms next to each other. I mean, we're all things clown. That even when we were done, we were still talking about clowning. We were still watching videos. We were still creating gags. And I would say that one of my fondest many memories is when Greg and I had our rooms next to each other. And we would open up the doors and we would lay our legs outside into the hallway, and we would sit back and forth and talk and drink a Diet Coke and write gags, talk about how the weekend went and how the shows did, and why everyone's getting crazy and partying and stuff like that. We're still in the moment thinking about, how we can make ourselves better clowns. So, and I did party on occasion too.
Kenny and I were like in our early 20s, so we wanted, we would talk, in addition to the clown stuff, we would talk about girls and drinking beer. Now we talk about colonoscopies and high blood pressure. But the one thing about the train that I love living on the train. It was really, after the performing aspect of our job, the train was my fondest memory, and still is. But when I moved on the clown car, that a lot of us lived on, didn't have a shower. There was no shower on the train. So people go, you were on the show 10 years. You didn't take a shower for 10 years? I said, no, we used to shower at the buildings. But on long train runs, sometimes from Philadelphia to, I think it was Oklahoma City, it was like a 3-day train run with no shower. So now, again, Ringling took amazing care of their animals. The elephants, they would stop the train for a water stop. They called it a water stop, and that's when they would actually open the doors and make sure that the elephants and all the livestock was properly fed and watered and taken care of. They don't care if we have no showers, but they make sure they were taken care of. So we would put on a bathing suit and run down to where they had a water stop, and basically they would fill up the tubs for the elephants with the hoses. The fire department usually would come out and have a truck there, and then they would just turn it on us. So many times that's how we took our shower. But one time we stopped and we saw it was a little better. We parked next to a golf course, and they were watering the golf course. So we grabbed our swim trunks and a bottle of shampoo, and we followed that sprinkler like we just followed that thing, shampooing your hair, trying to keep in that. And then of course the the greensmen started coming around with the golf cart screaming at us because there's shampoo suds, soap suds all over the green. And I'm like, this is what we do. We're going to be telling these stories in 40 years, and so we still do.
There are a lot of other stories that you can probably shake out of any of these folks if you say do it for the morale, that are probably less than appropriate for tonight's audience.
Oh, come on!
When you get a group of highly creative, energetic goofballs in the same room, as is this week, you notice that you don't behave normally, and you start going off the charts with your creativity and your energy. You charge off of each other, and you're charging off of the audience. When you have a lot of downtime in between the acts and the show, a lot of crazy stuff happens backstage. People lose their hair, people videotape unspeakable things. Or they reprimand you in certain ways. I developed a bad habit of sleeping through my alarm. And if you were late for pre-show, you would be fined. So it got so bad that I started keeping a makeup kit in my room on the train. So I'd wake up and the last bus would already be at the building. And so I'd start making up and make my calls and like walk up and down the train, see if anybody was driving to the building. And so there was one day that like I called my boss clown and said, hey, I slept through my alarm again. I'm on my way. I'm not going to miss pre-show. I just need to power my makeup when I get there and get in costume. He's like, okay, Scoy, you better make it. So I got into a truck with one of the acrobatic families. So we're driving off to the building. We were in Denver, Colorado, and I ran into the building as soon as they parked and say adios, gracias, and run up the stairs because we were upstairs. And I sat down at my trunk, and all the clowns usually had powder socks. And they would powder their face with powder socks. At this point, I had a powder puff and a cup of loose powder. So this was a mistake. Yes, I learned. So I dashed in. I sat down and I took out my powder cup. I took the lid off. I put my fingers in the powder puff, and I got it right here. And I could smell something. And it was unlike anything I'd ever smelled before. And what the guys had done is they heard that I was running late, and this was a tour where there was a pie fight. We were all part of a pie fight, and the preference was for Clown Alley to be by men's showers or showers, so that we could run up, shower, take our makeup off, and reapply it so that we can get back in the show as soon as possible. So this is men's showers for the entire circus. So there was a notorious smelling individual by the name of Animal who worked on crew. Lord only knows how he got that name. It was then, nearly instantaneous, when the powder puff hit here, that I smelled something that I knew immediately that it was something off of Animal was in my powder. And so I put my powder puff down, and I dug in there, and I pulled out a very skinny, damp, now caked, like pancake batter in baby powder sock that he'd left outside the showers because he was showering before the show. So that was my hint of getting. It wasn't easy. It was another individual with a very gruff voice. But that was my hint to get a friggin' powder sock.
Okay, I know I talk too much. This we get a 2-week break on the rodeo route. I know that because I was always on the rodeo route. And you get a 2-week break, and so you make a plan. And I worked on trunks crew. When you work on trunks crew, you're in charge of bringing the trunks and spotting them, and you also got to haul out the elephant tubs. Everybody works on the circus. This is called cherry pie. I made an extra $35 per town to move all of the clown trunks, all of the clown props, and all of the elephant tubs with 3 other guys, and in and out. And so we were going on a 2-week break, and I was going to go out to Las Vegas. So I was going to buy an airline ticket, and I went in there. How much is the airline ticket? I'll write you a check. We don't take checks. I said, okay. So I had to go cash a check at the circus and come back and give the money. Came back the next day. The price was up $35, and I was like, how dare you! So I refused to buy an airline ticket. Grabbed the newspaper, found a car that was for sale for $200, and bought it so I could drive it from Pittsburgh to Las Vegas. Because a $200 car will do that. You just change the oil, right? But I bought it in Pennsylvania, not Pittsburgh. It was another part of Pennsylvania. And our next town was Rochester, New York. So I had to drive overland to get to Rochester. And the building in Rochester, there's 2 bridges on either side of it, and the municipal, the building was here. There was no place to park anywhere near it, and I had never driven a car to the show, so I didn't know, where to park. So I would drive around. This was load-in day. I'm on the trunks crew. We got to get the trunks in. So I finally found a place, and I ran in, and all the trunks were unloaded. All the props were unloaded. All the bolt tubs were out, and I was like, man, I've never seen it done this fast in my life. So I went to my trunk. It wasn't in Clown Alley. Because if you're not there, they'll show you why. I've been looking all over. Nobody would tell me where my trunk was. Because we love each other on the Clown Alley. We take care of each other. Hang on a second. Go ahead, Kenny. Did you just guess where my trunk was?
I did. It was hanging above the ring on the floor, wasn't it?
Oh, higher than the trapeze. And I didn't know which rope to untie to take it down either.
He wasn't the first one to have that happen to us, so that's how I do that.
Okay, so to hit our 9 o'clock ending, we're just about right there. I don't know if there are any other questions. I did want to make a statement that from all the Ringling clowns, so now next year this, I call it a reunion, but this is a convention, a get-together, is in New Mexico. Albuquerque, New Mexico. We hope that we see everybody there next year. In addition to that, there are many Ringling clowns that live in Los Angeles, and a lot of them live in Las Vegas. So first thing Monday, I'm going to try to make calls out there to see if we can get more of them to come out. Hopefully it helps you all, and it's interesting for you all to hear from the Ringling clowns that were circus clowns, because I'm kind of fascinated about hearing the types of clowning that you all are doing with, from all these things. So I think it's a nice sharing of things. So hopefully this membership is going to continue to grow, and this is going to be a lot more fun times for the clowns. Yes, sir, the guy that's the future. Stand up, Mr. Future. You see this guy anywhere? Help him out somehow. Help out whatever you can do, please.
I was just wondering, for those of you who went to Japan, how did you get there and how was the trip?
Plane. Flew.
We all flew. And one memory I have is that we brought everybody over to Japan, and you would think when you get there, you got like a 12, 14-hour time difference, depending upon if you were in Tokyo or if you were in Osaka. So you get there and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, but your time is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And you go up to your hotel room, because that's where we were, in the hotel room at that time, because there were no trains that were there. And I remember it was one of the first times I went, and I went upstairs and I'm trying to sleep, and it's, couldn't sleep for anything. I think, okay, well, maybe I'll go downstairs to the lobby and see if there's anything open. And I go down to the lobby, and there's 150 circus performers all walking the halls because nobody could sleep anymore. It was just 2 o'clock in the afternoon time in their mind, but it was 2 o'clock in the morning in Japan. I remember bringing in advance, I had to bring the unicorn to Japan as one of my special projects. And the unicorn was the unicorn. And in America, it was not a goat with a horn. It was a unicorn. And I had to go with me and the unicorn and the vet and take the unicorn to Japan. So we had a manifest. And when we got to customs, I had to talk to the guy, and he said, well, I don't show anywhere in the U.S. government and customs where we can allow a unicorn. And we got goats, we got horses, we got llamas, we got whatever, but I don't have a unicorn here, so I don't really know what to do. So I said, well, it's not really a unicorn, it's a goat. Can we get it out of the country? And he says, okay. So we fly all the way to Japan, and I get out in Narita Airport in Tokyo, and I get over there, and they say, so, well, we don't really let goats in here. And I said, well, it's not really a, it's not really a goat, it's a unicorn. So anyway, I got it there, and I got it back, and I just had to tell little white unicorn lies. Paul!
If you yell, he still can't hear you.
Oh, Paul!
Oh, he wanted to say thank you for interpreting.
Are we good? Are we good, Pam?
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Oh, he's here.
Just to let...
Can I
ask a question from behind the curtain?
Sure.
You're the man behind the curtain.
Don't pay any attention to the man.
You really? Which clowns were in charge of auditions in Rochester, New York in 1981?
None of us are bad.
Those are during my years.
They were your years, Ron?
78 to 84.
Okay. I just wondered, because I ran through the auditions in Rochester in 1981. And I got the application, but because of some extracurricular activity that I was involved in, yeah, but thank God.
Ask your parents' permission first.
Yeah. But I'm glad to be a part of all the stuff that's going on now, and listening to the stories have been just wonderful. And I thank everybody for all their great memories.
You're welcome.
I want to tell you 3 brief things. First of all, the International Clown Hall of Fame has been here free of charge, demonstrating the number of their items in the mini museum there. They're going to be packing up later tonight. They're going to start. So we encourage you, if you haven't walked through there, we encourage your membership and support of the International Clown Hall of Fame. We appreciate all of our different Bodino venues and camps and people that are just continuing to increase the level of this art. And tonight our hospitality is given to us by Clown Camp, and so we appreciate Kenny being here to do that also. The silent auction I mentioned is on a table out here. You can view some of the items. We're going to do silent bids on that tomorrow morning. We're going to close that off by 1 o'clock on silent auction, and we'll go to the normal auction later in the afternoon. I believe that's all I need to tell you tonight, except for one more time, thank you, Ringling.